Hey everybody, I hope you guys are having a good evening. How we doing? Melinda, Levon, Michelle, Scott, Kimberly, Hovey, Amy, Crystal, what are you doing? Tim, Christy, Sharon, Amy, James, all of you, thank you for joining in. We'll get started in just one moment. Hope you guys are having a good night. Hope all of you enjoyed your day today. Hey Chuck, hey Crystal. We had good weather today, thank goodness. Hopefully tomorrow will be the same. Susan, how you doing tonight? Thanks for joining in. Amanda, how you doing? Stacy, good to talk to you. Hopefully this won't take too long. We're just going to cover a few things and then you can get back to enjoying your Saturday evening. Tim, how you doing, sir? Good to see you joining in. Mr. Todd, how you doing? Jewel, good to see you. Cassandra, Robert, thanks for joining in. Again, guys, we'll get started in just a minute. We're not going to keep you too long tonight. We're just going to cover a few things that are important to us with this year's election. And we'll answer some questions if you have some at that time. But again, we're just not going to do too much tonight. Just want to clarify a few things. Sean, good to see you, sir. Diaz, how you doing? Brenda, how you doing tonight? Hope all of y'all having a good weekend. I hope everybody got outside today for a little bit. Frankie, good to see you. Mr. Appler, always good to see you. All right, so we'll get started a little bit. Mr. McNally, always nice to see you on here. Hope everything's going good on the farm. All right, so to get started, we titled this "To Run or Not to Run." You know, I'm speaking to you tonight for 10 minutes or so as Joe Cina, not really as a candidate, but more as a resident of Pender County. My wife and I live here. Our 3 kids live here. We moved to Pender County from the New Hanover County area in 2006. We lived in Rocky Point to about 2014. And then we bought our house over in the Hampstead area, and we've been here ever since for the last 3 years. We love Pender County. We care about Pender County. And we didn't really have a lot of intentions. We talked about running for sheriff. And then when the current sheriff decided he wasn't going to run again, that obviously opened up the door. Mary, Stacy, Daniel, good to see you guys jumping in. So it opened up as an open ticket. And in law enforcement community, if you have an open ticket for a sheriff, it brings out the masses. And we've seen that. As of today, we have 6 registered Republicans running for the Republican ticket. So if we put our name in the hat, that puts it up to 7. It's almost like watching the presidential election. And unfortunately, it's almost getting that comical already. Sean, good to see you jumping in, bud. So let's talk real quick. You got to look at the qualifications for a sheriff by state law. So by state law, qualifications for a sheriff are covered under Chapter 162. So your disqualifiers, you would have to be 21 years of age. If you're not 21, you cannot run for sheriff. So if you're 21, you're in. All of us on here 21, we can run for sheriff. Amy, good to see you jumping in. Jamie, nice to see you. So you're 21, you can run for sheriff. So the next thing, you have to live in the county you're running for 1 year prior to your registration. So if you haven't lived in Pender County, you cannot register. So for all of you on here, Paulette, good to see you. Anthony, good to see you. So for everyone on here, if you're 21 and you've lived in Pender County for at least a year, you can register to run for sheriff of Pender County. Now, some other disqualifiers, if you're a convicted felon. So if you're a convicted felon, you can't run for Pender County. But if you're not, you're still in there. You're 21, you've lived here for a year, you're not a convicted felon. So the only other things, you cannot practice law, and you cannot be a member of the General Assembly. So if you meet those requirements, you can run for sheriff. Nowhere in that state law does it say you have to be a current, active, sworn law enforcement officer. It's not true. You don't have to be. You could never, ever have been a law enforcement officer and have zero law enforcement officer experience, and you can still file and run for sheriff of the county that you live in. That's the way the state law is set up. So I hope that clears it up for some of you, because there's a lot of people that think you have to be currently sworn, you have to have active credentials. You don't ever have to have any credentials in law enforcement to run for sheriff. You just got to be 21. You have to live in your county for a year. You can't be a lawyer. You can't be on a General Assembly. Can't be a felon. So all of us in the chat room, if you want to run for sheriff, you have that right. And you have until Wednesday of next week, the 28th at noon, to register. Registration's been open for 2 weeks. So we've been keeping a close eye on it. And, you know, we're looking to see who's running on a Republican ticket, because we are registered Republican. Jeff, good to see you. Stephen, Ingrid, thanks for jumping in, guys. Chris, good to see you. Kimberly, nice to see you. So we're looking at the 6 guys who've registered, and now we have to look at what does a sheriff actually do. And there's a misperception there. For some reason, a lot of people think that a sheriff is just a cop, or a sheriff is just an administrator. Unacceptable. Mary, thanks for jumping in. That is not what a sheriff does. Now, you can elect a sheriff like that if you want a lame duck sheriff who's going to sit back and do nothing. But a sheriff has so many other responsibilities. Matt, good to see you jumping in from Charlotte. All right. A sheriff's first responsibility is the jail. He has to handle the jail. He has to take care of the jail. And that is a big civil liability for every one of us staying in this county. He then takes care of the courts. The sheriff protects everything in the courthouse. That's another one of his responsibilities under the state statutes. He also has to handle the civil division. I can't even go into the liability of the civil division in your restraining orders, your injunctments, your evictions, all of those things that a sheriff is responsible for. Then we get into the fun stuff, the police work. Before you even get to that, you have to know about the jail, you have to know about the courts, and you have to know about the civil process, because those are the 3 that are going to hold us citizens in Pender County liable. Those are the ones where we're going to write big tax checks to cover if the sheriff makes a mistake, or if one of his people under him make a mistake. Sean, I hear you, bud. So the police stuff, this is the stuff everybody that thinks a sheriff only does. But it's not just stopping cars. It's not just serving warrants. You got to be able to answer calls for service. You have to control traffic. Everybody sees what's going on with the schools this week. We understand it. The sheriff is in the schools, his school resource officers. There's so much training involved there that the sheriff is going to be responsible for. Let's not forget investigations. Who does the investigations in Pender County? The sheriff's office. All your investigators, you have to have experience with search warrants. You have to have experience executing those search warrants. We want to see someone who's elected that understands these things, because when that sheriff's deputy is signing paperwork, they always start with the sheriff's name and then their name. So the sheriff is responsible for your 4th Amendment rights to unlawful search and seizure. So wouldn't it be nice for a sheriff to understand what his deputies are doing? Wouldn't it be nice for the sheriff to be able to look at a piece of paperwork and say, I don't agree with that. We're not going to violate our residents like that. This is our citizens. We're not going to do that. So many things there besides just making an arrest. Hey, Joel, good to see you. Novella, happy you're on. Lorenzo, Laura. All right, guys. So, again, the misperception, I got to speak to a group of wonderful people one morning, and I asked what does a sheriff do? And it was that they're an administrator or they're a cop. There's so much more involved for a sheriff, especially if you're going to have an active sheriff who's involved. And in our community, that's what we need. We need someone hands-on. We need someone out there. Wouldn't it be nice if you call 911 or you make a report if the sheriff himself showed up and checked in and made sure you were happy with the service you were receiving? That's what we're looking for in a sheriff. That's what we want to see. That's what I'm going to vote for. That's what my wife's going to vote for. And that's what we're trying to see with the candidates. Who is capable of doing these things? Who has been there and who has worked in all these different areas? So now let's break it down. We kind of know what a sheriff does. We've got a little understanding. We didn't go in depth, but we know now that he does more than arrest people. He does more than sit in an office and tell people what to do. So let's see what type of characteristics make a good candidate to handle all those responsibilities. Well, number one, education. College education is very important. It is very evident if you've ever read police reports, read a report that you've made, if you've ever been in a courtroom, if you've been a supervisor, you can see the difference in an educated and non-educated officer. It doesn't mean the person cannot do the job. They can be wonderful and do great jobs, but an education goes a long way. We're looking for an educated person to be the sheriff. We're looking for someone with a college degree, a little more understanding of what's happening. We're not talking about a degree you just go pay for. We're talking about someone who's earned their degree, got a bachelor's degree from an accredited university, a master's degree, an associate's degree, something that tells me you went a little above and beyond and you have an education. Then we're going to get into experience. A sheriff's office, there's two different entities. You have your detention side and your deputy side. So we talk about the detention side. We're looking for someone who has some experience there. Someone who's been through detention officer school, someone who's got their DOCC certification and they understand the jail side. We'd like to see someone who has supervised that side of the house, not only done the work, but been responsible and supervised people in the detention side. You come back to the law enforcement side. We're looking for someone who at one point was BLET certified, someone who has worked in different units, someone who may have been with a warrant squad, answered calls for service. Maybe they went over to a gang unit, then they jumped back to a traffic unit. Maybe they were on a horse unit. There's so many different options out there and responsibilities, a downtown task force. We want someone who's moved around a little bit in their career and showed us that they can do these different things. But then we also want someone who has supervised those things. Because I can promise you, when you're a supervisor, you look at things a lot different than doing the job. You're responsible now. As a supervisor, you're responsible for the 8 guys running around at night with firearms on their hips answering these calls. And you have to pay close attention to what's going on throughout your entire area. I can't stress how important it is for whoever we elect to have supervision skill in law enforcement. You have to be law enforcement supervisory capable. You just have to. It's completely different being a supervisor over cops than it is being a supervisor over something different. So we want an educated person to get elected. We want someone with experience. We want someone who's been a supervisor. We want someone who has been an instructor, someone who's taught law enforcement, someone who has mastered their profession, mastered their skills, went a step further, took pride in it, and shared their knowledge with the new people. Someone who's taught basic law enforcement on the law enforcement side. It'd be nice to have someone who's taught detention officer on the other side of the house. You can't ask for more than that, to have someone who's done the job, supervised the job, taught the job. Very, very important things we're looking for. We're looking for someone who's involved in the community. More than just being an officer. What have they done in our community? I'll give you an example. I serve on 3 community boards. I serve on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Committee. I serve on the Tourism Development Authority Board. And I serve on the Cape Fear Fair and Expo Board. I've done that for years. I'm active on all 3 boards. That's what I'm looking for in a candidate. I want a candidate who goes above and beyond, not someone who, as of last week, because they're running for office, has joined a committee. I want someone who's been doing this, who has shown their abilities, who has shown their involvement for our community and their desire to want to do more. So let's summarize that real quick, because again, I wanted to make this quick, not to ruin anybody's Saturday night. We know the requirements by state, what you have to do to be a sheriff. We know that a sheriff does several things. They're responsible for the jail, the courts. They're responsible for your basic law enforcement side. You definitely want someone who's got experience in all those areas, because you're going to be in charge of those areas. We know we want an educated sheriff. We know we want someone with that experience. We want them to have supervisor experience. We want them to be able to lead by example. I want to know that they received awards in their career. If you spend a long time in a career, you should get those promotions. You should work your way up. I want to see someone who's worked up that chain of command to positions and shown their leadership abilities. So let's break it down into some common sense. Pender County is like a broken car. So we're taking it really, really simple for all of you. It's a broke down car. And it's been sitting in the garage for a while, and we want to rebuild that car. But in order to rebuild that car, we want to make it better. So we're going to need somebody good. So we need a mechanic. Well, there's a lot of good mechanics right now, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of good mechanics sitting there. We've got this mechanic over here who can do the best brake job you've ever seen because he spent so many years doing brakes. And we got this mechanic over here, and he can fix anything electrical on that car. He is fantastic. He's done it for so many years. He is the electrical man I want. But I can't elect two people. I can only elect one. So I've got to find somebody that can do all of these things. Take that back to law enforcement. I can elect a person who spent so many years doing this one thing or two things, but that's not what a sheriff does. A sheriff does so much more. So I have to weigh all of this out in my head, and this is what I ask all of you to do, is weigh this out in your head. Who is a qualified candidate? It's not your friend. It's not your neighbor. It's the qualified person. I don't want anybody to vote for me because I'm your friend. I don't want you to vote for this guy because you're their friend or their neighbor or they're good people. I want you to research your candidates, every single one, like we've done. We have researched the other 6 candidates at this point. And we're going to keep researching because registration doesn't end until Wednesday. We made a campaign promise in the beginning when we registered the first week of December. And it was very clear. If a qualified candidate comes along that has the same experience as us, preferably more, and has the same desire we have to help our community and build our community, then we will step aside. And I hold to that. We've watched for 2 weeks people register, and we've got some really good people there. I like some of them. I'd like some of them on my team one day. Great people. But we haven't seen somebody yet that we think can lead us into the 21st century of policing like we need. Someone who can fix what's going on in our community. So at this moment, we're going to register. Now, if in the next 3 days somebody comes along that fits that bill, we will step aside gladly. I will support them. I will help them. I will do anything I can to help them to protect me and my family, my children. But until someone comes along that we feel can do that, we're not going anywhere. Pender County needs a lot of help. We are a broke down car. We have to fix the car. Not the lights, not the tires. We want to rebuild this thing completely and make it work for everybody. I want everybody to be able to come take a ride in this car. Everyone. We are trying to open those doors for Pender County. Most importantly, whoever you elect, whoever you choose, they have to have passion and desire. They have to build bridges. They have to open doors. They have to have the ability to bring in resources from outside, to build relationships with the neighboring communities. We have 3 municipalities in this area. You have Surf City, you have Burgaw, and you have Topsail. You have to be able to build bridges with them and do some beautiful joint work. A lot of complaints about, well, there's no money in Pender, there's no money. There's so many other ways to do things than having to have more money. Work with each other. Open your doors. Involve the community. How hard is it for me to have you guys help me do the job? It's so easy. Every one of us has a phone. Why do we not have live Twitter? Why do we not have live Facebook? The 911 center is in the sheriff's office. Why do I not, when I'm driving up Highway 17, do I not know there's a wreck up ahead of me until I get to it and I'm backed up for the next several hours? How hard is it for someone to put that in their phone and send out an alert like they do in Wilmington or New Hanover or Onslow? It's time to update. Those are the types of things we're looking for in a candidate, and that's the type of person that will get our vote. So I want to thank all of you for giving us this short period of time tonight. Please research your candidates. And I'm going to tell you what, mechanics get dirty, don't they? They all get dirty. That's the same with people. People get dirty. But I want to know how you cleaned your dirt and how you became a better mechanic. I don't want to know about all of your dirt. I don't care. I want to know what you've done to fix it and what you're doing to make yourself a better person, because that's how you grow and become strong. If you're a mechanic and you never got dirty, then you never really did your job. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. I pray for all of you. We'll see what happens this week. We have till Wednesday at noon to register. We're keeping a close eye on it. unless somebody else steps forward, we'll be there and we'll be registering and we'll be smiling. And you'll see signs from us, but you won't see our signs till 30 days before the first day of voting, which is April 19th, early voting. No signs before then, per your county code. Everybody have a wonderful night. Take care.